thread underneath the dubbing first, okay? Just gonna adjust this so I can see it a little better. You know, you never get to see your fly this close up in real life. It's only when it's on the camera. It's pretty amazing. You see every thread wrap, so you see all your mistakes.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's pretty good. Next material is pheasant tail. So hang on, I gotta stand up and get my bag here. So here's my bag of pheasant tails. I almost always buy them at the fly fishing shows because you can go at some of the vendors and pick out the long ones. I think they're usually only about $1 a feather. And you can really go through and just pick out the ones that have the longest fibers. Because when you're tying, you know, 12s, 10s, sometimes even 14s, you know, you want the longest fiber possible. So, and you know, there's coming all slight variations in shades. Most of mine are normal, natural, which is kind of like olive on one side, maybe a little brown on the other, or darker brown. I also buy some blacks as well, but so here I also try to stay slim. So I usually take 3, maybe 4. We'll go with 4 if it's a little bigger fly. Okay, let me see. Where is it? There it is. Okay. So I cut off the tips a little bit. I trim the tips. No more than 3 or 4 feathers for me. Okay. Tie them in by the tips. I tie them slightly on my side and a little bit in front of the tail. I lock it in there. Here I try not to do too many wraps because the more stuff you put in, you know, the fatter your body gets. And I wrap it back kind of to that point of the bend, right? Okay, so those are in. And then the next one is the ribbing. I'm using ultra wire copper in small. Okay, small or brassy is usually what I use. I don't like the ribbing to be too big. Hang on, my light went off here. There, it's a little better. I don't like it to stand out too much, but sometimes I'll mix and match up with a copper rib with a gold bead or vice versa, or a red rib. You know, everybody has their little favorites and maybe secrets that they think work for them. So, all right, so cut maybe 2 or 3 inches of wire. You don't need too much, right? These flies are pretty small still, even though it's a size 12. Lock it in there, maybe pull it back so you don't use too much and don't bulk it up too much. You lock it in. Let's see how it looks on the camera. Okay. Normally I need the vise closer to me so I can actually see it these days. So, all right, I'm just gonna build that taper up a little. See, it's kind of flat right now. I'm gonna give it a little bit of a shape, but that's pretty good. Okay, let's see. So pheasant tail. I never really know what's the absolute best way, but little wrap under, you hold that in place. It looks good on the camera. And I don't overlap the wraps, right? You put them right next to each other. See those beautiful fibers that are sticking out? You never actually see unless you're on camera. That's great. And there's, you know, there's slight variation in all of these different turns because of the tone of the individual bird, basically. Good. That looks great, actually. All right. I don't need to go super tight to the bead because we're going to put stuff there as well. 1, 2, maybe 1 in front. Again, try not to do too many wraps, right? Because it all adds up after a while. I trim that completely off. You know, some traditional way you use that for legs, right? All right, so yeah, it's a little long to wrap there. Okay. All right, so this wire is copper, even though you can't quite see the color. There you can see the color. A lot of guys counter wrap for durability. Counter wrap, you know, I would go back and wrap across that way, right? I like to wrap just the same way I wrapped with the feather, just so it kind of fits in there nice and easy. I don't really want it to stand out too much. Just a little durability, a little segmentation. That's 3, 4. That's probably, maybe that's one too many, but that's fine. Boom, 1, 2. Okay. Let's see how that light looks. That looks pretty good. I like the ribbing to fit in a little bit. I don't want it sometimes when it's crossed, it really stands out, especially if you have a slightly bigger wire too. I cut my wire because I'm crazy like that. So, all right. So, you know, if I weren't narrating this is like a 2-minute fly or 3-minute fly, right? But I'm just going through it carefully here. All right. So the Met's synthetic peacock. You know, I keep all my dubbings in kind of containers like this, so you don't have to go into a bag every time you use them. You know, synthetic peacock is there. So, and the different CDC dubbings are in there as well. Sometimes I'll organize those by materials that I know I need like together on different flies. All right, so can you see that? Okay, that looks good, right? You see how that catches the light? You don't really need very much. And you can use wax here, but I generally don't. This dubs pretty easily. It's been a little while since I actually haven't tried this on camera, so let's see. I have to look over the camera to get there. All right, so not too thick, okay? That's probably a little too thick, but I'm gonna squeeze it tight and see what happens. Okay. All right, I'll probably pull it off. So I just do 1 or 2 turns like that, okay? Yeah, that's too much there, so I pull that off. That's it, right? Can't really see that too much on the camera, maybe. You can see it needs a little trim. Right? Stuff that you never notice. Okay, that's pretty good. I got this little reflector here so you can see the color a little better, right? That looks pretty good. Just a piece of paper. Yeah, you see the color of everything. That's nice. So that's good. And then I'm gonna take that reflector out for a second because it kind of gets, I don't know, gets in my way a little, but that's fine. All right, so now the dubbing. I do a dubbing loop on this. This is a little short dubbing spinner that I'm going to use because my tripod is in the way. This is another dubbing spinner that I use. This one spins super easy. This is one of those Italian ones. I can't remember the name.
Stoneful?
Stoneful, yeah. This one's short. This one's easy. It kind of weighs. It just spins a little.
I love the short ones.
So it's a little tricky because this tripod leg is in my way because you got to let it hang. But let's see. Let me take a look at this. Well, we'll see. All right. So if you don't know how to do a dubbing loop, it's easier than it sounds. Here, I'm just gonna put my finger here, like about 1 inch below, because I don't need a big one here because it's just a little dubbing. Bring it back there. Do a couple there. Then I put the tool in. I know you can't see that, sorry, but I go on both sides of the loop there just to lock it in a little bit. All right, so I know that's hard to see because it's off camera. Let's make sure I've got it correctly there. All right, so you can see that you make like a loop that is sealed at the bottom with that little tool. And then I'm gonna put the dubbing in there lightly, spin it a little, and then just wrap it a couple of wraps, okay? You can dub it directly on the thread, but it gets a little bit bulky. So, but I've done that plenty of times, okay? See, that's what the dubbing looks like. That's what the CDC dubbing looks like. It looks great. Just gonna get a bit of a piece here, not too much.
Okay. You put it in between the two pieces of thread. I don't know how expert everybody is. I know this is everybody probably knows how to do this, and I'm pulling down on the tool to try to lock that in, okay? And then I'm gonna spin it. It's all a little awkward. See, I'm spinning it right now. Okay, so now it's like in a little rope, right? I do a couple wraps. I'm kind of pushing the feathers back a little, you know, like that. And now it's in. Use my thread, lock it in. That's in. That looks good already. It's not even wet. All right, where are my scissors? Now I cut the dubbing loop tool. Okay, just like that. That's easy. I'm not going to put a hotspot on right now. This tripod makes everything a little bit awkward. So I pull these back. Maybe I'll do it. Let's see. Okay. Just do a couple wraps there because I know I'm going to put a thread over that as well. This is a whip finisher tool. 1, 2, 3. Okay, that's good. Slim, buggy, sexy. All right, let's see. Yeah, I'll go with this color. That's Glow Bright 8. This stuff is a little thicker than the other thread. It only comes in one denier, one strength, I think. So try to use this sparingly, okay? Like almost locking it on is almost tying it. So maybe a little loose, we'll see. Yeah, see on camera that the little tag looks terrible. Okay, that's better. And then I whip finish that too. So. Boom, that's it. That's my basic fly. Let me just get a little bit of water and I'm gonna wet it just so you see what it looks like wet, okay?
How's everybody tonight?
Good.
Hi, Gustavo. How are you, sir?
You're fine. How are you doing?
Always a pleasure to see you.
Thanks. I'm there. It's a place to see you.
Am I the only one drinking?
Like it.
Get there,
You are not alone.
I don't
like
think so.
I like it.
Tuesday night is like an excuse.
I can't hear Dave.
Decided not to break out the absinthe, so I'm going to have a little bit of honey ginger crystal tea with some rum in it.
There you go.
That's good.
I'm drinking an other half dreamier or dreamiest. It's 7.8% alcohol, oak cream India Pale Ale that has a flavor like you can't believe. It's fabulous.
did
You
someone
guys
say that-
tried the Devil's Purse Kolsch that's out now?
I have not.
You know, Devil's Purse up on the Cape, the small brewery in Dennis.
Oh, cool.
When we go up to fish for stripers, we often stop there at lunchtime and
Good Trump.
have a craft beer and a sandwich. It's really good.
Nice.
They've got it in cans at several local liquor stores now.
What's the name of it again?
It's Devil's Purse Brewery from Dennis, Massachusetts.
I'm on it.
And it's a Kolsch. It's they call it the Handline Kolsch, K-O with an umlaut, L-S-C-H.
Got it. Thank you,
It's
sir.
a German beer, and I had a person who I gave a can to, whose wife is from Germany, tell me that it is pretty good compared to the German Kolsch beers.
Perfect. All right, we got to kick this back to Dave.
Can you hear it? Can you hear me?
Now we can.
I was just gonna, you see how it looks wet. It looks kind of gooey and really nice. You can also see how maybe sometimes it doesn't need the collar, this hot spot. You can also put the hot spot back here at the butt. Let me see if I have a couple.
David, show us it wet again. I'm missing that. Oh,
You see that? And like when that's moving, right? Those fibers will kind of wiggle as well,
mm-hmm.
and they kind of veil it as well. Let me see if I have another one here. Let's see. Let's throw another fly in the vise.
Hey, Dave, what size was that? I didn't catch you when you started. I came in a few minutes late.
It depends on which hook you're using. There's a nice one there with the pink bead as well. You see that one still has my line attached to it as well. I don't know. The CDC dubbing just looks really, really buggy, and it has motion too when it's in the water. So that's my number one fly, basically. I know a lot of guys fish, this version of the pheasant tail, right? The Frenchie. Again, you'll see there I tied the rib with the tail, not across it. I mean, what are some of the pheasant tails that you guys tie? Do you have special ones that you guys tie?
I always use a flashback for the shell case.
What do you put in dubbing in there? Or you put just peacock herl or what?
Actually, I use peacock herl, and every once in a while, ostrich herl. Ostrich herl was really kind of interesting.
Yeah, I don't do the wing case basically almost ever. This is more kind of like a quick guide fly style thing. I lose a lot, but these flies have worked everywhere basically.
Yeah.
From here in Montana, but I've also fished them in Slovenia or Czech Republic,
Wow.
Poland. It's basically a universal fly,
Great.
I'll show you this crazy version here. Hang on, let's see. I wet it as well, but
Yeah. Cool.
that's a 10 with that bead is probably like a 6 millimeter or 5.5 maybe, because in Slovenia you can only fish one fly, and if you have to get it down, you have no choice but to get it down. Like compared to that's a 3 millimeter bead right there, so you have some semblance of some size comparison there. So they look ridiculous.
What is that? Is that like a 4.8 millimeter bead?
6. I think it's a 6. It's almost as big as you can get, because you can only fish one fly. So depending on the situation,
Right.
you couldn't do it any other way. Here's rarely I'll do this. This is on a regular hook. This is my my Hendrickson kind of variation. The flashback there, a darker bead, and with the Jan Simon dubbing, which is a little bit more brown and maybe a little sharper, and doesn't have the there's no CDC dubbing in that. Should I tie a Frenchie? Do you want to see like the butt hotspot, or what do you guys think?
Hey, Dave.
Yeah.
Quick question. What the CDC dubbing that you use, is it like pre-cut already? Like, do you buy it at Upcountry or?
I've been up country since this whole thing started, so I'm not sure if they carry it right now, but
Uh-huh.
Trout Hunter, okay, maybe you can see the back. Yeah, it's all chopped up. There's no stems in there.
Okay.
It's like it's slightly, feels a little bit curlier than others,
So Trout Hunter's as good as any?
Used. Yeah,
I lost you.
and that is it's the only one I've ever used.
Okay.
That's dark brown. You can do a rust. Maybe you can use it on olives. That's a nice color.
Oh, yeah.
Just a little bit of that on a little olive nymph, beautiful. The movement is there and everything. Let's do one where I will wrap a CDC feather and look great as well. It's just more work when you're tying it, And we can also do the hot spot on the butt, which it's a technique to learn a little bit.
Hey, Dave,
Yeah.
you do your dubbing loop. Is there a reason why you do the loop the way you do it and not split the thread?
I can't split the thread. It's too hard.
Because what?
It's
What's
too
that?
hard to split. It's too hard. Occasionally I split the thread, but it's more work than it's worth for me, Do you have a special tool?
Yeah, they make that thread splitter tool that makes it so much easier.
My birthday's in July, so
Hey, I got one of these coming to your house, Dave, okay?
and it works.
I split the thread on the smaller flies because I just don't want the bulk, but on anything like a 12 or bigger, then I just go with like Dave does.
Done it, and it's so frustrating. I'm just like trying to flatten out the thread and then like stick it in the middle. I mean, it's satisfying when it works because it does. It's nice, it's slim, but I've tied so many like this, I can just power through it, right? So. For splitting the thread, right? John, can you hear me?
Oh yeah, what's up?
Which are better for splitting, right? Because it's not the same with all threads.
Right, the UTC is very good for splitting.
A hot spot on the butt in a little while because I've been tying saltwater flies, so I forgot. I'm going to start with the obviously for anybody who doesn't know, these are slotted beads, right? The bend of the jig hook, so the fly theoretically rides upside down, maybe a little bit less likely to snag on the bottom. I use jig flies on the dropper all the time, on a dropper tag all the time. I'd say about 90%, maybe 80% of my flies are jig hooks. On the dropper and the really small, it doesn't matter to me because those little flies higher up in the system are almost never going to see the bottom anyway. So just to tie it straight out, especially if you're going to do a wing case or something like that, which I don't usually do. But all right, so you see, obviously on this one, I started with the glow bright or with whatever fluorescent or UV thread or whatever you really like, which comes from Spain originally, or that's where it's become famous dyeing. I'll make these tails a little shorter. You know, so you can control the length of your fly almost by where you end the body here and how long your tail is as well. So you can do little variations. So I'm not too picky about the exact size of my fly. So keep those tails on top. Be tying with the camera. Maybe you can see it. Let me show you how I have it set up.
Oh, wow.
Oh, holy cow.
I'm surprised you can tie.
Like
All right.
that. But you know, you get a nice view at the proper angle of the tire's angle. So I think, you know, I think it's good. So
Oh, from where we're sitting, it's great.
put the tie the tail in with the glow bright, build it up a little, too much, and now we're just getting it out of the way and tying it off. And I see, so the tripod is like down below here, so it's a little tricky with any long tool like the whip finisher. All right, it's been a while since I did this one, so it may be a little out of sync, but all right. So then when you're doing the butt hotspot, you know, I think UV cure, right? So this one, I can't remember which one this one is. I got it at the fly show, but I also use the Loon UV clear fly finish thick. That's for saltwater flies, really. But I got a few different versions out there. Just gonna do the tail section, really, because then the fly gets slippery if I go too far up. Okay. UV light. Some generic version I got on Amazon, probably for like $15 or something. Not those $60 or $70 ones. Making sure it's not dripping too much, and then that fluoresces when you hit it with the UV light. That's pretty cool. All right, so that's hard already, I'm sure. All right, so then I go back to the.
Thanks so much, Dave. I'm going to head out to another meeting. Have a good night, guys. Thank
Take
you.
care.
Good night.
I'll see some of you tomorrow night.
Here, right, and you decide how big you want that hotspot to be by how far you go back with your thread. Boom. Okay.
Hey, Dave, could I ask a question? Why do you use the UV cure on the hotspot? Just for durability?
And I can't cure it on the collar because the cure gets into the CDC dubbing. You know what I mean?
Well, I didn't hear the first part of your answer.
UV cure when I'm putting the hot spot at the head, at the collar.
Okay. But I'm saying you just do it for durability, or does it like have it show more?
Because this gets bitten pretty, can get torn up pretty easily back there, you know?
Gotcha. Okay.
It's
So
a
it's
little
for durability.
but also I can't do it at the head because, you know, the UV sticks to the dubbing, right?
Got it.
And I don't know. I'll talk to who are the pros out there. Does anybody think it matters where you put the hot spot? I don't. So, but I like to have some variation. If something's not working, I'll try something different, you know. And who knows? It could make a difference, right?
Mm-hmm.
So let's see the hot spot. I'm just going to keep it that small right there, right? A little butt, orange butt. Okay. Pheasant tail is in. Wire, copper. Try to keep it here. Some guys will put that right in the the notch of the bead. It helps it stay in there. And you can kind of bring it off to the side here. I don't think it matters too much if your fly wobbles a little because the weight isn't perfectly distributed, right? Probably looks good. All right, so that's locked in. You see that's got a little more body already. I'm just gonna do a little taper here. Amazing, okay, good. Sure that I don't. But yeah, you see with my fingers behind it, you can see the hot spot nicely. Over wrap the pheasant tail just right next to itself. After every turn, I'm kind of locking it in, right? I'm holding it in place. Because when this comes undone, it sucks. 1, 2, that's enough. Don't put too many wraps in there. See, on the video, that looks terrible, that little piece sticking out, I know. On the fly, you can barely see it. That looks pretty good, I like that. It's a little neater pattern with the hot spot at the butt, which I like. Even though I'm not a super neat fly tire. That looks good. Comp guys, competitive guys, you know, they fish super slim flies like this. They can probably just put like a little piece of dubbing at the head and go with it, you know. A little Frenchie doesn't even, and you already have the hot spot. You don't actually need the, you can have just regular peacock dubbing or the Seaman dubbing. For this one. The Czech guy. And at some point in the 90s, I think. The Arizona synthetic peacock, okay. See, it's easy to bulk this fly up, which I don't really like. But then when it gets wet, that CDC dubbing disappears a bit. Okay, my light went off. Okay, I'm gonna peel that off. As is, so I'm just gonna put a little bit of dubbing, and I'm just gonna go straight on the thread down. It's a little bit tricky how I have this set up as well. But I think this is the most important piece of the fly, which is the CDC dubbing. I mean, apart from the pheasant tail itself, which looks great. It's too thick. When you do it like this, sometimes you want to brush it out because it's not straggly because you didn't just place it in there. Yelling at me to whip finish by hand. I've got room, so I'll do another one here. 2, 3. I never use cement or glue or anything on the whip finish because I feel like my flies, they don't last long enough in the river anyway. They're either torn apart by the fish or they are lost on the bottom. Here, I'll give you a 360. It looks really buggy when it's wet. When I was in Poland once, maybe 7 years ago, I was there not just to fish. I was doing some work, but also I went fishing, and all the guys at the or the place where everybody was staying, they would show me their fly boxes, but they would always put it in water. They wouldn't show me a dry fly. They were like, wait, look at this when it's wet, you know? And these guys were all really good anglers. So I try to always look at the nymphs wet. Or anything different. Although you can see how the dry fly sits in the water by putting it in the cup or something like that. So so yeah, that's the butt hot spot. That looks good. Those probably would sell more in a fly shop, I think, than if you did the collar, but they're a little harder to tie, you know. So let me see what else I've got here. I've tied the same thing, but with the quills, the quill body, and then covered them because you have to cover the quills. But I think there's something about the little fibers sticking up from the pheasant tail that just fishes better than the smooth quill bodies, at least for me. Little Perdigon style stuff, maybe that obviously I UV. But for the bigger flies, even for the small flies, there's just something about the pheasant tail. It works great. So that's a Perdigon there with that's UV white under there, which is quite hard to find. Really good. Yeah, that's super smooth. But I still haven't completely bought into the whole Perdigon thing, even though I know they work. I prefer some texture in the fly,
On that loon, the UV resin, I bought some of that hot pink and hot green stuff, and you're supposed to mix it with like a toothpick or whatever. I mixed the crap out of it, and it's pretty much worthless. It's not what it's advertised to be, in my opinion. I don't know if anybody's ever used it.
Use that loon clear stuff, and after a year, if you don't use the fly, it tends to peel away.
It'll peel away, and it'll also cloud up. That's why the solar res is so much better. But yeah, I've tried. I mean, I've caught fish on the flies I made with the hot green and hot pink, but it's more of an opaque green and an opaque pink rather than like a hot pink thing. It is what it is.
It's funny, Mark. I've been online shopping for materials, and I've noticed that loon colored UV stuff is like on clearance everywhere, half price.
Nobody wants it
because of that. Yeah.
Yeah, nobody buys it because it's doesn't work.
This one I just pulled out of my box. I mean, this one's not wet, and it already looks alive. That slightly darker pheasant tail. That you see, that has a darker dub there as well, and that's just let's see what else I have here. There's a million different variations, right? Version. Look when I zoom in on them like this, but they're pretty small. See, that's not even pheasant tail. I can't even see that otherwise. That's like a tungsten torpedo with the there you can see the ridge, the rib tied there on it's just thread with 1 or 2 wires and a gold wire tied together. So that looks good though. It's a good fly.
Just keep going through your fly box, Dave, and show us everything.
And it's being recorded too, so
A gold or silver bead. This would be my number 2 fly. I don't know why I tied them with dark beads at this time. I think it's because we bought some at the fly show last year. I had to use them. These are like dark coffee beads. But
I like that color. That coffee color is great for big stone flies, and
it's not the pattern I would normally use, but that's that's a Polish quill, wrap, and you see that's UV sealed as well. This is a beautiful little fly. So this is probably an 18, probably, right? Let's see. I'll put a 12 next to it, maybe. Right there. So that's probably a 2.5 millimeter on the.
Hey, Dave, that dark bead would probably be really good for a Hendrickson tie.
I agree. Let's see what else I have here. This is being recorded, you said? Shit. This fly we got in Slovenia was great. They use this blue. It's crazy. And these fish were picky too, blue perdigon like that. That's like a shiny blue, just with a little thread at the head right there. So, and you like the Europeans, they oversize their beads a lot on those perdigons. This is a Dave Shaw favorite. He ties it better than me, I think, but don't tell him. I don't know if he's on. Right? That's got the UV ribbing in there, or fluorescent ribbing. It's really subtle. That also has has a wire, a UV rib, and one other. It's hard to see. Maybe I can zoom in. Let me see here. Oh yeah, how's that look?
Oh yeah,
looks amazing, right? Yeah, I think that white is a rib. There's some fluorescent thing in there as well. That's the same dubbing. I use that Mets dubbing, that Arizona synthetic cuck on almost all my nymphs. I use Coq de Leon for all my tails. Yeah, so that looks good, huh?
How long are your tails, Dave?
I'd say it depends, but usually about a shank length or a little bit more or less, probably from behind the bead to the beginning of the bend of the hook is how I measure it.
Mm-hmm.
But that tie right there, actually, I think, if we line that up, I think I would rather go shorter than longer. I think maybe longer, it may affect a little bit how it drifts or how it floats, kind of like turn it around. Who knows, right? This one, the tails are quite short, This sneaky little fly. These are all small ones I'm showing now. These are all they're probably 18s, slim. That's like a 2.5, maybe 2 millimeter bead. The 12 on the bottom, and a 16 or 18 on top. But plenty of times in bigger water, I'll have 2 12s or a 14 and a 12. I don't know if you guys have ever seen this fly before.
What? Oh yeah,
Although,
Night, I'm leaving.
that's a favorite fly.
Is that bait?
I tie that in a jig hook as well, because I usually tie these pretty heavy. So that's a 4 millimeter bead on probably a size 10. They're super easy to tie and they're fast, so I don't care about losing them, but I still tie them on the jig hook.
Dave, you say they're super easy to tie, but I always end up cutting the shit with my thread.
I know you got issues with the worms.
I do. I'm okay with the other stuff I'm tying, but that stuff, for some reason, I don't know. I can't get it. Or it comes off at an angle and it looks like hell. Although I'm sure it would fish, but it just doesn't look great.
I found that if you buy the cheap squirmy worm material, you're going to have a lot of problems with it. Buy the stuff from Wapsie or whatever, Hairline.
Oh, that's nice.
Caddis, the famous Torrey Collins caddis, which is probably the number 1 caddis pattern I fish, and probably my number 3 fly. Let me get it wet, see how it looks. He has he only has like 1 video or 2 videos on YouTube, and that's one of them, if it's still there. So Google the Torrey Collins caddis. That has caught so many fish. It's really hard. It's hard to see actually what's in there. Let me see. Put a little more light on Tori has the recipe. You kind of have to make up your own dubbing based on his ratios, more or less. But it's a great fly. It's a great fly. Let me see if I have one that is a little bit easier to see, maybe a bigger one.
You
That's-
tie them small, Dave, or in multiple sizes?
That's probably like a size 12 scud hook. That's a bigger one. But when they're up close like that, they don't look like anything because you brush it out, right? You brush out that collar.
Do you tie a lot of nymphs on scud hooks?
I tie almost all my caddis I tie on scud hooks. I don't know why. That's about it, really. Sometimes if I have some small scud hooks, I'll tie some, some little olives or maybe a little pheasant tail. But I'm looking at my box right now. Almost. Used to. It's a nice tie, but this isn't my tie.
That's a really nice fly, but I wouldn't take the time to tie it because I would hang it on the bottom like second cast.
I want to lose this. It's not very heavy though, actually. It has a pretty light bead on it. Let's see. Is it recording this? Let's see. That's a Czech Republic fly from Jan Simon's box to mine. Probably caught like 80% of the fish a couple of days on the river there. Caddis imitation, I think. That's kind of like a aqua cyan angel hair tail. CDC dubbing. He makes a dubbing loop, kind of like the it's that French guy who has all the CDC tools.
How does he get it the fibers to be
Get it,
so
John.
like sticking off the fly like that?
You put the full feather in the dubbing loop, and then you cut the stem off. He uses like a tool, so the fibers are sticking straight, and then you spin it. It's a little bit hard,
But it just looks really buggy.
It looks great, and that's a disco bead. You can see the disco ball bead.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how much difference any of that makes, but what else? You guys want to see anything else?
I want to
Yeah,
see a
keep going.
45-degree day so I can go fishing.
Version of the Strolus's Shimmerstone.
Oh, that's beautiful.
That did that. Yeah, that's a beautiful fly. See, when it's so buggy that you can't see the stuff when you're up close like this, but when it's wet, it looks great. Yeah, you see that's the tubing wrapped over kind of a golden thread, and then with this brown flashback over the thread, and then the tubing wraps over it. That's what gives create that beautiful two-tone look,
It's got great segmentation too.
And it's called steelhead, trout, everything.
Nice looking fly.
It's beautiful. It's not that hard to tie. He ties it slightly, slight variations, but the main thing is the tubing over the thread with the brown. It's more like sheeting than flash, Upcountry has it. It looks great. We used this in Slovenia, and our guide he's like, "Oh man, that fly is great. It looks great," He's a hardcore guy. Never seen it like that. So that's a great fly, and that's a good steelhead fly too. I've caught many steelhead on that. Well, many, 10, something like that.
I've caught 2 in my life, so.
That's a nice. That's Devin Rowley's black stonefly. I tied that. That's like a number 8 jig hook, special jig hook. You see how the eye is turned the other way? Normally the eye is facing that. So that's a really nice stonefly as well. That's got this kind of like net back sheeting. You see the little pattern in there?
Oh yeah.
What are the legs?
Rubber legs that I cut into pieces, you know. The
Okay.
tails are biots there.
Uh-huh.
It doesn't really matter. I use rubber legs for almost everything, you know, for stonefly stuff.
Mhm.
And the biots look good, but you know, they're a little hard to tie with as well. So let's see. Gosh, maybe I can take this page out. I don't know if you can see it. This. It's my caddis page. Can I do that? Oh, it's too close, right? I have my stuff organized by mayfly and caddis and stoneflies, you know, all different pages. So, and weights. Can you see on there? Let me see on this on the stone. And I cleared this out because I was taking the pheasant tails out. But you see, I've got the weights, right? 3, 3.5, 4. Maybe I have 4.5. I can't see it. So I try to keep those rows all with the same weight, right? They're all with the 3.5 beads or the 4 beads or the 2.5 beads. Not that the specific weight matters, but you know, the weight matters relative. Like if my fly isn't getting down, I'll go one bead higher. If it's getting down too quickly, I'll go 1 bead lighter. So that's the best way that I've found to organize it, you know?
Hey, Dave, can you show that again? I want to pin your video so I can see it a little bit bigger. Just pin your, maximize it here.
Maybe it's easier horizontally, huh?
Oh yeah, that's great.
Side of it, mostly the top flies are just kind of some small flies, a little bit of a mix. And then this other side, which I emptied tonight because I was getting some stuff, and that's usually my mayflies. The lightest at the top row down to the biggest at the bottom row. Normally, it's a little bit messy right now, but you know, that's
Are those Prince nymphs at the bottom, Dave?
Mhm.
With the
the
wing
side
on them?
yeah. That's a great fly too. You know, it's an amazing fly. Used to be my favorite fly, but this takes too long to tie. So, but it's a great fly. You know what I use instead now? Let's see. I don't have any big ones, but I use the red dart. I think that's Lance Egan's or Devin Olson's, you know. I think it's like a good Prince substitute. Blingy, and this is a short one. This one's probably like an 18, but you know, that's on YouTube as well. It's a great fly. Something flashy with some color.
You in camera? No. You're walking. I'm not gonna
Just to say, because right, that's the Prince. See, I can see how badly that's tied now. That zoom in like that. It's crazy. Really hard to like get perfect, right? Let's see this one. And this how's that? Oh yeah, that's good. Nice.
That's different.
No ribbing, huh?
Yeah. There's probably a gold wire or a copper wire. See it?
Yes.
You know, some crazy people tie on a jig hook, they tie the wings on the inside of that. They tie the wings on top, right? Or if they're doing a wing case, they tie the wing case inverted as well. Because the fly theoretically rides this way, right? In the water. But I haven't noticed a difference. And you know, your flies aren't floating down the river perfectly organized. So, but our friend Dave Shaw ties his flies inverted. So, but he has more patience with that stuff than I do. I've tried it. Sometimes I do it, but I generally don't, you know. I don't know if I have any with it. No.
Well, the one thing I've noticed from all the flies that you put up there, Dave, is they're very, very like buggy. There's fibers all over the place. Me, I'm always worrying about them being too sloppy, but now I think I'm going to go the different direction because you always outfish me. So I think I need to change my style.
Realized they were so buggy until the other week when I was trying this setup out, you know, and I was like, damn, there's so many fibers everywhere. But yeah, because like when you look at them and you hold them in your hand, you don't notice it, but up close, yeah. And I think they move, they get wet, they look like something, you know. I mean, that stuff looks good wet, you know. Again, that body there is peacock ice dub. I didn't bother doing the actual peacock curl, even though that looks really nice. It's also, a little more fragile, a little harder to tie with, but yeah, it looks great. And the Prince nymphs, when you're trying to wrap that little hen hackle around, that's a pain, right? Something like this, right? The little hen, like
Yeah,
this,
yeah.
these little feathers. Take one, a little big, but let's see. Those look great on a pheasant tail as well, instead of the dubbing, the CDC dubbing. Just, that's a little long. They're just, when they're the right size, they're really tiny, and it's difficult to kind of wrap them around. So unless I really need to, I don't. But I do it on the Prince nymphs.
Do you strip one half of the fly when you're using one of those feathers, Dave? Like, do you strip one half of the feather?
Sometimes I do. Not always. Even that can be a little bit of a pain,
Mhm.
And a little extra feather isn't that big of a deal, I think. But the trick is to get them small enough so that the fibers don't go past the hook, right? And then it looks like it doesn't look right. But the little tiny feathers are hard to wrap, so we'll see. I'm looking at my box here. What else do I use a lot? I'll show you one more. Let's see. These are common these days, but when I first started fishing these, almost nobody around here used them. Orange tags or red tags or pink tags, or but Devin Olson's got his version, right? Evan Hildenbrand has his version. So, but that's a great fly. That's another fly that I got in Poland that I copied after it started working, So.
That was my
margarita, Dave.
A shop here in East Haven / Brantford didn't have an absinthe, so my default.
That red tag was my absolute #1 fly. This aside from my little clink hammer, that thing caught tons of fish. What's that?
How do you tie yours?
I use some of that Danville 4-strand red floss, and then I tie it with like dark dubbing and a wire and a big ass bead. So I'll tie it kind of a black, and then I tie like a dark brown and olive and all kinds of, and then I use orange as well.
Sometimes.
Yep.
What
it's amazing. It's amazing how that thing catches fish. I mean, it doesn't look like anything.
Secret for multiple years, except for my closest fishing friends. This one, I think I didn't know what they represented, but I'm pretty sure these all represent some kind of caddis. Because that's when I always catch fish with them, but they fill some niche that the other flies aren't filling usually. And this, I think, they could be case caddis. That's what I think.
Yeah, I think you're right. They also, for what it's worth, at least from my perspective, is they get hammered. There's nothing subtle about the takes on these flies. I've had many times almost hit it like a streamer on the swing,
Mhm.
right? It's crazy. And they're easy to tie, right?
Can you hear me?
No, you went quiet
You're on
there.
mute for a second.
How big do you tie it?
How big I tie it? I start at 12 and then I go 14, probably 12s and 14s, maybe a 10 if I want to have it be the anchor.
14, 16. I don't know. Big doesn't usually work as well for me, but it's a great fly. Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
I don't fish this green as much, but it's worked when nothing else has worked sometimes. So, and that ribbing, I use the sulky, that green sulky.
What do you,
Yeah.
what do you guys think of the comment? It's not the fly, it's the fisherman. I heard that yesterday and that pissed me off. I caught fish on nymphs, streamers, and a dry fly yesterday. And I was told, it's not the fly, it's the fisherman. And what I do is just fish one fly the day. See what you can learn. Pissed me off.
I think it is the fishermen mostly, but
Well, I would say congratulations. That's a hell of a day in the middle of the winter.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I drove past, what's today, Tuesday? Yeah, I drove, we just went for a drive yesterday because we were bored. And we drove up 7 past Housatonic, and there was a lot of ice. A lot of ice. It wasn't very, it flows about 650, something like that.
Yeah.
But there was a lot of ice in a lot of spots. It would have been kind of dangerous.
versus fishermen, the fisherman obviously is putting all this knowledge into it, not just the fly, but he's putting presentation, reading the water, understanding the fish, understanding the river, understanding insects, all of that comes into play. Obviously not just the fly, but obviously the right fly helps a lot.
That's
But
what I think.
I think presentation is the number one thing because, you'll catch fish on one drift on the caddis, you'll catch one fish the next drift on the pheasant tail or on the perdigon or on a little blueing olive. And, it's not like those bugs are hatching on that 1 second specifically. So, there is on a good river, those bugs are always around. The fish know that they are food. So that's what I think. But I've seen so many times when a good fisherman obviously outfishes everybody else, even if you have the best fly. So,
Yeah.
I also think it's having confidence on what flies you have on your line.
I agree.
Why is that? What changes? What happens?
Well, like for me, I can honestly say, like, if somebody gives me a fly and says, you got to try this fly, and I look at it and I'm like, that doesn't look like it's going to catch fish. And I'll tie it on anyway, and I'll fish it thinking, all right, how many casts am I going to give this fly before I cut it off and put on something that I know works? And sometimes it introduces me to a new fly, which is cool. And sometimes it doesn't. I'll never get rid of it. I'll always go back to it. But sometimes I really think you fish better, you fish differently when the fly you're tying on, you really think has the best chance to catch the fish.
Yeah, I agree with that one.
Why? How does that?
I agree with that one because if you trust your fly, you have more chances.
Yeah.
I think if you trust your fly, you can then pay attention to other things like flow, lies, those types of things. Because you're thinking, all I got to do is get it there, and if I do, it's going to work.
Mhm.
And so it just takes out a whole guessing game.
You have to start from the point that you have to have a trout that is willing to eat.
Yep.
Just for that. And in the case like a nymphing went like mostly in the Euro nymphing, the way that you are fishing, you basically are putting the fly in front of the fish. So you don't know how much the percent that the fish is going to hit the fly only because it's annoyed because that big bead is hitting the fish in the head and get annoyed and just hit it and you say, oh, the fly works. But it's not because really the fish wanted to eat the fly. It's only because the fish was annoyed with the freaking fly.
I think sometimes they strike out of aggression. They're not striking to eat. They're striking out of aggression. I agree.
It's different like when you are fishing like to say a streamer or dry flies, that the fish had to move more distance to get that fly.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But personally, I think if you trust
thank you very much.
fly, you have more chances.
Take care. Thank you.
Be well.
Take care.
Thank you very much. We'll see you next Tuesday.
Yeah, sure. That's for sure. Take care, guys.
Hey, Dave, that's a beautiful fly right there.
The caddis. Obviously, that's on a scud hook. that has kind of a ginger dubbing body.
Yeah.
That's the that green sulky thread, you know, the ribbing. That's spiky squirrel dubbing collar and
That looks
hotspot.
a lot like Steve Colton's squirrel and ginger wet fly that he ties.
Is, or it's a variation of that, you know. It's a great fly. It's a great fly.
Yeah.
That's one of the I haven't fished trout that much lately, but that's one of the first caddis I put on, you know. I put Tories on first, you know.
Hey Dave, what do you buy the hooks? Like what kind of brand or what? Or website?
I was using the Orbis tactical hooks mostly, you know.
Okay.
That's probably that's the Czech nymph hook. You know, their jig hooks. I think their jig hooks are Foaling Mill hooks. So I buy from Foaling Mill as well. I buy it up. I used to buy it up country all the time because I was there all the time. You know. Yeah, I'm not too particular, but I think the tactical nymph hooks are all really nice hooks. You know, I never had a problem with them.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
You know? Yeah, when you're saying about putting the fly on the right in front of the fish, I can't tell you how many times I tried to put a fly right in front of a big steelhead that I could see, and it was almost.
No, I know. No, it's true, but the thing is, there are so many things involved in the situation when the fish really hit the fly, and the main one is really that the fish is willing to eat. That's the first one. The second is I personally think is the impression that the fly is making to the fish that is triggered that desire to hit the fly. And the third one is probably how close the fly is to the fish. Because one thing is when the fish had to move distances to get the fly, is because it was more attracted by the fly. So, but I was impressed with to see using the CDC with nymphs, because I've been working with CDC for like, I don't know, 10, 15 years. I love CDC, but I usually don't nymph. So I take once in a while, I take nymphs only to keep in my bag. But I love CDC, and I never seen it on a fly. But CDC is a wonderful, wonderful feather.
Use that technique?
No, I couldn't hear what you said.
That technique to put the CDC on?
No, but I use CDC on dries. On dries, but I was saving a lot of those pieces that you cut for making the dubbing, and I was working on that. As a matter of fact, today I got so discouraged and I dumped the whole thing. Even I got something. Even I was trying to make the dubbing today, but I didn't like it. I said, oh, next time I use the feather like a rope, like to make the bodies. And for dry flies, it was really good.
Saw Petitjean make a dry fly, I think it was a parachute dry fly at the fly show. Apart from the tail, everything was CDC. It was amazing. The fly looked gorgeous, you know, but complicated, very complicated. But yeah, do you know the F fly? That very basic. Oh
no, as a matter of fact, I taught myself how to tie flies, and when I got into the CDC like 15, almost 20 years ago, I looked for a simple fly to tie. And I would tie a fly using a CDC feather like a body. And and like 3 or 4 tips, depends on the size of the fly or the hook for the wing, like a kind of imitating like a El Cadiz, but everything of CDC. And it was really good. So I was talking like 2 or 3 years ago to a guy, a complete angler, about the fly. And he said, oh, there is a fly close to that is called the F fly. So sure, I was checking the F fly, and the F fly has tail, or it's a variation anyway, and a dubbing, and the CDC for the wing. But I have been tying the body without tail, tying the body with a CDC, tying by the tip, and then wrapping the whole body like trying to make it kind of rope. And you finish, and then you put, today I was tying 18s. I tie like I don't know, maybe 60, 70 flies today.
Oh, Jesus.
And because to imitate the stone flies, because it's amazing that F fly imitates anything. The way that I tie last year, the fish in the Lamar River in the Yellowstone National Park, they were taking the fly for blue-winged olives. And you need only to change the colors. That's it. And you can imitate any bug, talking about dry flies anyway. Any bug with the system with only 2 feathers of CDC. It's amazing. That fly is amazing.
You should do it. You should do it Tuesday night and tie that and show us how to tie those flies.
I sent it to Jeff, because Jeff wanted me to tie a fly that I call the Holy Pond fly, that an old timer told me like, I don't know, like 20 years ago, a really simple fly, looks like a bonefish fly, and it's really good for stripers.
Oh, cool.
And
Dave would like that.
Yeah, and the Holy Pond. I lost some big stripers last year. Even they straightened out the hook. The hook was straight. Striped I for like for 10, 15 minutes until the hook was straight out with that fly. It's amazing fly. So Jeff wanted me to tie the fly, but I sent him a picture of the fly that I think that is amazing. I have been fishing that fly a lot. I featured a lot last 2 stonefly hatches in the Mayanos. And it was the only fly that I fished for the stoneflies. Even I featured in Yellowstone National Park. It's an amazing fly. I will show you a little fly that. I don't know if you can see it well.
Wait, let me make you bigger.
Yeah, let me pin your video. Dave, can you stop your chair so we can pin his video?
Because we are in the camera.
Oh, yeah.
See? So the fly, and when you see it from the bottom, the white is really what the fish is. And if you are fishing it this way, it's like a Cadiz. And I noticed when we are in the Yellowstone National Park that I gave some to my friend Dan. You stand up the wings and you make a mayfly. And this way, when you cast it this way, it's more like a Cadiz.
Yeah.
It's amazing fly. It's really amazing. It's like I said, in the last 2 years, I had tied, I don't know, maybe more than 300 or 400 flies with these ones.
the plume dry fly with the CDC as well, you know?
The air fly?
Like, you know, it's just like either heron hurl, which we can't get here, or you can use, you know, like a strip peacock curl, and then just the plume of the CDC is sticking out front, almost like a shuttle style, you know. So it's usually it sits a little bit low in the water.
No, yeah, but what I use is from the body. I use it as CDC feather. Like when I buy the packages or the CDC, what I do, I select the feathers by the shape and how long they are. So like I can use this is an 18 hook. So I don't waste, like I'm not going to use a feather that I can use in a size 14. I'm not going to use it in an 18 hook because it's going to be a waste. And when I tie the body, it's only the feather, like a rope. I saw that when they were tying the F fly. There are so many variations, even with dubbing and all that stuff, because I didn't know that fly was so famous in Europe. But I got the idea because it's so simple. It's really simple, and it's
good.
And it's a really good fly. This is what I've been tying the last 2-3 days.
Is that it, guys? I think that's it, right?
You can also try spelling it.
That's all I did you.
David, thank you very much. I'm going to exit and go watch the end of my hockey game. Guys, it was good seeing you all.
Okay, guys, so see you Tuesday.
Yep. Mark, I'm going to call you tomorrow. John, I'll be in touch.
All right.
Great
Hi,
job,
Pat.
Dave.
Bye,
I don't know if
guys.
you can
Hi,
hear
Emery.
me, but
See you guys
Okay.
later. Thanks,
Okay,
Dave.
guys, take
Hey,
care.
Gustavo.
Demi.
Hey, so I'm tying here next week, dry flies.
Okay.
And then Jeff asked me to do a saltwater pattern later at the end of the month. I think I'm scheduled for the end of February for a saltwater pattern, but the date he gave me, I can't do.